Awesome, Beulah Youth, hello, and welcome to our first week of our small talk. And this week we have Pastor Joel with us, and we're going to be talking a little bit about what life looks like for Pastor Joel at the moment, and just kind of what God's been teaching him in this season. We're all meeting on Zoom calls this week, and it's a little bit raw, a little bit smaller, a little bit more intimate, and so we're having some kind of home conversations and just seeing how each other are doing and what's going on. So, Joel, how you doing?
As good as I could be, I think. We're all going through these times, and so some days good, some days not so good. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be working through a couple of questions every time we do small talk. And so these will be some stuff that will be helpful for us to process and then to be able to look at in our small groups together. So we're going to always start with an opening question, which is this. What has God been teaching you during this season? So Joel, what's God been teaching you during this COVID season?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think sometimes even in this season, it can be difficult to hear from God because our emotions are a little erratic or where they're at. And I've been thinking about that in particular and thinking, being a difficult season, we've gone through these crazy changes that we didn't expect at all. I was reading this book for my course called Adoptive. The book is called Adoptive Church by Chap Clark. And in that book, he talks about how actually it's not change that we hate so much. It's loss. It's the things that we lose. I don't know if you guys can hear my kids in the background, but I think one of my children's crying right now, which is awesome. But it's loss. And for just a second here.
This is perfect small talk, guys. This is
I know, right?
You'll like
this is my son Jason's crying right now.
Wow, this is the most perfect raw experience of what a conversation at home looks like during COVID. I don't know if you've watched Jimmy Fallon at home. This basically is what it feels like. The kids are just climbing on top and just be like, breakdown.
Yeah, so as I was saying, it's not so much the change, it's the loss, right? And for me, like the loss has been, before this COVID time, I got to work with a fantastic staff team, volunteers and you guys, youth. And then the request was for me to change from that to doing what we're doing now with video and online stuff, which might seem kind of fun, but for me, there's a loss there that I really miss. For some of you, it might be a loss of sports. Maybe like, hey, I was playing soccer or basketball and team sports, or maybe it's like, hey, I missed the close connection with friends or extended family. That's been kind of the lost part. So in that, it's been like, God, what are you doing through this? How do we learn through this? I've been trying to read through the Bible in a year, probably about a year and a month, or a year and 2 months. And right now I'm in Proverbs, but most of this COVID time I've been in Psalms. And if you can remember back to when we were actually together, we were going through the book of Psalms, and we talked about the Psalms of Lament. And those are the ones, like for me, that are standing out right now the most, because I feel like these Psalms of Lament really speak to us, lamenting right now in this loss that we have. And so one of the verses that like jumped out of the page to me was Psalm 74, verse 9. And I'll read it a couple times, okay? It says, "We are given no miraculous signs, no prophets are left, and none of us knows how long this will be." Yeah. I'll read it again. "We are given no miraculous signs, no prophets are left, and none of us knows how long this will be." I think that speaks to our time right now. Like there's all sorts of voices going, oh, it's going to be this long, or hey, this is going to be the next strategy, or this is going to be the thing. And nobody actually knows. Like, I think we all to say, like, I don't know, and I don't know. Like, that's pretty much where we're at. And we're even lamenting that. That's even a loss for us, that we don't know. We don't have this control or this idea of what our future is going to be like. And so we're lamenting that. But in all that, I go, well, how do we deal with this? How do we deal with all these losses, and even the loss of control, loss of, what our future would be? And for me, as I read these, another one that comes out is in Psalm 69. It's a Psalm of Lament. There's Thanks to Google, I know that there's 42 Psalms of Lament in in the Psalms.
Thank you, Google.
But Psalm 69, it has a lament, and often this is the structure of a lament psalm. And you guys heard this, a few months ago, right? Like it goes through, hey, I'm dealing with this, dealing with this, dealing with this, and they go, this loss, this loss, this loss. This is happening to me. This is happening to me. But then there's that turn verse. That verse that it kind of turns on its head. And so Psalm 69, verse 23, the psalmist says, I'm in pain and distress. And then there's a turn. May your salvation, O God, protect me. So you can hear, like right in one verse, halfway through the verse, it turns. And the rest of that psalm, Psalm 69, is about him. I will praise God's name in song and glorify him. And he totally changes. I wonder, as I read that, I was like, how long did it, like, it's only half a verse there, but how long did it take for the psalmist to go from here to like here, in his hope? And I think, all of that emotional loss and loss that we have, we need to bring that to God like the psalmist does. We don't need to just go, oh, well, I'll suppress that, or I'll compare it to somebody else's, loss that's worse than mine, and kind of like soothe ourselves with that weirdly. But I think actually we need to bring that to God in all its rawness and where it's at, and go, God, this is where it's at. And I, even though it's difficult, I put my hope and my trust in you. Because we can't put our hope and our trust in our strategies, in us kind of trying to figure out the future, because we don't know. No one's been through this ever, as far as we know. And so we kind of have to just say, we know someone who knew this was going to happen from before time began. Jesus was not surprised by COVID. And so we need to put our hope in that person who doesn't change, and who has our backs, and who loves us and cares for us. So that's been what I've been learning. I mean, I know it seems like a simple truth, but I think that's a truth we learn over and over again in our life as we go through difficult times, and especially now in this time. So that's what I've been learning.
That's awesome. That's really helpful, and I think for everyone listening and for everyone engaging, this will bring out some really good conversations as we kind of go, what does that mean for me? Second thing I want to ask you is, obviously we're in a season of new normals. And as we can see, you're working from home and the kids are like, and screaming around. But in these new normals, there's been some new things that have happened. And so if I was to ask you, what thing or something you've been doing in this new normal, do you actually want to bring into the new normal? So from this kind of COVID season, what do you want to bring into the new normal? You've gone like, hey, I actually really appreciated this during this season, and I think I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah, you see some of the struggles here at home. We didn't plan that, by the way. Even though there's the crying and there's all that kind of stuff. One of the things I want to bring into our new normal, even now and then beyond COVID, is this time together as family. Like, we've had lots of time together. That's been great. Sometimes that's been a stressor, as we've experienced, but more than that stress, it's been good, because we've been forced to do relational things that we're not forced to do all the time. And so we become closer as a family because of that. So that's what's one of the things. Even with my wife, Michelle, we've been, most days, maybe a day or two out of the week that we don't, but most days we've been going out and running together, sometimes with the kids in the stroller, or Jason on a bike and Macy on a bike, kind of thing. And I've loved doing that together as a family, and do that together with Michelle, and running, and actually, doing exercise. I hope that continues beyond COVID. I think some people will come out of COVID and just be completely like ripped and fit, and others will be completely the opposite. So I hope I'm the first one, and continue that. And then and this sounds weird, but in a lot of ways, there's been some friends who have actually grown in connection with over this. So I've actually had more Zoom calls and FaceTime calls with people than I would in person. So like one of my buddies, Blake Paul, who Southwest Campus, we probably talk on FaceTime 2-3 times a week. Before that, I couldn't tell you that we talked that much in face to face. And others, some of my friends from Calgary and stuff, like we've actually spent more time, doing that kind of stuff because we're like, hey, we know we're not in a good spot. We need connection, and so we're forcing that connection almost. And so I think I would love to see that continue, right? Where I mean, this COVID thing has really kind of woke us up to the reality. Oh yeah, we need connection, but we actually needed it all along. We just often neglect it with our busy work lives, right? So
Yeah.
I think it's that. I hope it continues as well.
That's awesome. And I see that. I see that like there's the hours in the day have not changed. Like we still have 24 hours and 7 days a week. But there's been this thing of going that our time's changed, the way we use it. And I've heard that from a lot of people that actually the appreciation of family time has been something that has been maybe undervalued in a previous season of life. And it's just been kind of elevated. And thanks for sharing that. And I think that's so true. Some of those friendships that maybe we regularly would see or irregularly would see, and now it's become a little bit different because there's been this better use of our time. And so yeah, that's so good. Last thing I want to ask you is we've obviously been we're still in the COVID season, and we're still in a time where we're, as you said, living in a little bit of uncertainty, not knowing what the next kind of few days, few weeks, few months hold. But what would be, or what do you think, or what do you hope the church will be like in the new normal? So when they make an announcement and go, everyone can go back to normal, and what do you think church will look like then? And what do you hope will be in the new normal for the church?
Yeah, I hope that we will get even better at caring for people. That we will not like this will hopefully like we were just talking about, right? This rushness and this like, you know, hours of the day moving fast and all that. I hope that we won't jump right back in and go, oh, let's be like we were before. But that will actually go, no, we need to care for people and we need to continue that whether it's COVID or not, because people people need to experience God's love, and I think that's been something that we've been a growing reality. Um, I I would hope through this that people's hope in Jesus would have grown as well, and that just makes us all more excited and passionate about what we do in all that. Now, the other thing I hope, like right now, if you look at, and I realize most of you aren't on Facebook, you're on Instagram or whatever, but if you are Joe non-churched and you have a friend who goes to church and you're on their social media, you've seen more Jesus in church than you ever have in your life.
Yeah,
because
sure.
it's just like, hey, we got to share stuff. We got to share stuff. And churches are all, getting online or getting more online and all that. I think that's great. I think that message being pumped that much is a good thing. And it's a way to outreach that we haven't tapped into, but we're forced to tap into more now. And so I hope that continues. I mean, I picture youth, for example, like, hey, we have our small group after youth, uh, and oh yeah, Johnny and Timmy, they're not here, so let's zoom them into our small group that we're having in person.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
I hope that we can actually use those tools that we're already using now to create more engagement and more people hearing the message of Jesus. And I hope this also gives us, because right now, how do you share your faith? Well, we're trying to be creative with that. You guys are doing like youth alphas online and stuff, and I hope that just grows our faith and grows our ability to share that. And sometimes talking like this over Zoom actually breaks down confidence barriers, right? Where some people are actually more confident speaking like this than they are face to face in the real. So maybe this is a step towards that, right? So I'm hoping that we grow in how we share our faith. I hope we grow in how we just love our neighbors and are around them, because those, when we walk outside our house now, we talk more to our neighbors than we probably did before. So I saw my daughter, like Macy, I saw her making friends with people from our neighborhood that she didn't make friends with before. Now they're not like hanging out, not socially distant kind of thing, but like they're actually talking, which is amazing. So and I hope I don't out Macy on this, because I know she'll be watching this later too. So
Yeah. Hey, that's awesome. And thank you. That's as you said, some of that's simple, but also simple can be really helpful. And just as we process this time, and we're calling this small talk for a reason. It's not going to be like I'm blowing people's minds with the most amazing thinkings of God. It's like, hey, this is just what's going on in my life, and this is what I'm seeing God do. And I think some of that simplicity is so easy to miss when we're busy and we're rushing, but it's so helpful in this season as we go, what does God want to say and do in my life? So Joel, thank you so much for this time to chat, and we're going to head into small groups and have some discussion on all the stuff that you've been bringing up, and work through that together. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Chris, for allowing me to be part of this, and I miss everybody.
Yeah, we miss you too. See you, Joel.
Take care.